Excellent. Thank you, guys. I think a good place to start, and I know my subscribers love this sort of thing, especially on my YouTube, is testosterone and the state of testosterone at the moment for men. Me and Mike spoke about this earlier in the week or last week when we had a discussion that men's testosterone levels are reported to be at an all-time low. I believe the statistic was a third of what their granddads were. I guess it was around about the war period. What do you think's going on? Why do you think they're so low, and how much of a pandemic is it? And how bad is it going to get, really?
Yeah, I can start with this one, Sam.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with the low testosterone, there have also been reports of lower fertility. So I think the two go hand in hand. And if you just look at our lives since the Second World War, and the amount of pollution and the stress in our lives, so it's the lifestyle, how busy people are, not as much time with friends and family to kind of relax and unwind, not to mention the lack of walking as much or physical activity. And then even when you are outdoors, outside in large cities, and then in our cities and towns, especially in the UK, where the most dense in all of Europe, and people are in very congested small places with lots of diesel fumes that were brought about, I think, in the late 90s. Everyone switched from petrol to diesel, and that's full of pollutants, not to mention what's being polluted in the water, as well as in the foods that we eat. So, and lots of them are related to the estrogen chemical disruptors, or the endocrine disruptors.
There's a really good book, isn't there? There's, I think it's called Estrogeneration, picture of a tree on the front. I think it's by Dr. Anthony J. That's a really good book if you want, because you hear like, there's chemicals in the environment and there's things that may be disrupting our hormones. But that book's he's researched them, he's looked at the evidence, he's even got sort of what certain countries allow as an acceptable sort of level of these things. So they're allowed to be in our shampoos and shower gels, things like that, and in our water and food supplies, but at certain levels, so that they know they're already present. So that's a really good book for, summarizing, what Mike said about those sort of endocrine disrupting chemicals. So that's definitely one thing, you can actually see the evidence of as well. It's things like in your shampoo and shower gel and personal hygiene products. It's pretty much like innocent until proven guilty. So they can sort of put in quite a number of different chemicals until someone goes, that's not allowed because that's an endocrine disruptor at that certain level. They go, okay, I'll change it. So there's the easy ways around it in that sort of, area. Moisturizers, shower gels, shampoo. So definitely that blue light as well. I'm not sure whether Mike said that, but blue light and disruption of the circadian rhythms and how much we're exposed to as well.
Yeah, as well as certain chemicals in our sunscreens, though it's never really sunny enough to always warrant the sunscreens. But, if you're on holiday, or even lotions, body lotions. And, people that think, well, it's just topical, it doesn't get into the skin. But we've seen with our own clinic that, testosterone creams, depending on the formulation, doesn't matter which penetrating formulation it uses, the testosterone can still get through the skin. Well, that's one hormone, but there are other hormones that may be even more potent, like the endocrine disrupting, estrogen mimicking hormones that do disrupt the rest of your body and get through the skin. So, these may be some of the reasons compounded over the years, causing the decline in men's both fertility and testosterone levels.
Yeah, I also think that potentially there's maybe just more of an awareness. Don't know whether you guys agree or not, but it's that maybe more people are being tested when they present with like mental health symptoms, for example, anxiety, depression. Was it for a long period of time that it was just managed differently, given certain other drugs, certain avenues of treatment, and now it's more recognized as something that should be tested for. So maybe we're uncovering just more younger men. It's really common in the UK. If when I first asked to get my hormones checked, I had facial hair and they said, you've got enough testosterone, I'm not doing a blood test for you. And they sent me away, with all of my symptoms. And if that's been happening, and that was, in the last sort of decade. So, 30, 40 years, I don't know, maybe people, it's just not been picked up on or even recognized potentially. Women's HRT for menopause, obviously it's in their life, it's quite a big medical episode, right? Because they go from, it's very recognized, all the symptoms come on very quickly. So it's been recognized as an issue that women have over the years. But men, you rarely sort of experience that same, okay, all my hormones suddenly drop, unless maybe you lose your testicles or injury or something like that, or head trauma or something. It's a gradual sort of slow steal, so it's sort of men sort of wither away and they accept things as like depression, I'm getting old, fatigue, I'm just getting old, sexual dysfunction, it's just because I'm old. I do think if it happened like women, where we suddenly hit the age of 40 whatever onwards roughly, and suddenly they all accumulated at once and just hit us like a train, I think maybe it would be a bit more recognised potentially.